Every year, China's high-profile real estate developers come to Boao, a place that doesn't know winter, to catch up with friends, meet with political leaders, and maybe play some golf. It was a relaxing retreat when their industry was as hot as the temperature on this southern island. But this year, for the first time in a very long time, they could only hope that the long, dreadful winter in the housing market would be finally over.
我们老百姓不差钱，老百姓也愿意买房子。
And for now, it appears, after home sales went into a freeze for the entire second half of 2008, the crowd is back. At least, that's what the numbers show. According to data compiled by Centerline Property Research Center, in February, home sales went up 50% in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Tianjin from January. And in March, sales went up again another 70% month over month.
The demand was depressed throughout 2008, so when the prices stabilized in 2009, some of the inflexible demand out there, like people buying places to stay in, simply can't wait anymore.
My son just got married. He needs a place.
And he's not alone. Sales volumes have jumped, and prices are showing positive signs.
今天早晨的话，我们大概推出了10套左右的房源。
We put out 10 units this morning, and by noon, 7 are gone. When this project opened in January, the average price was 8,500 yuan per square meter. Now it's 9,000. And next month, we'll set it even higher.
到目前的这个售价的话，可能在9000左右了，而且后续的这个房源的价格会进一步的往上提升。
Once again, front-page headlines are live with buzzwords striking the nerves of consumers, with 2007 memories still fresh in mind, when prices on average gained 50% in Beijing and Shenzhen and 30% in many other major cities.
My friend got a 20,000 yuan off, but today I only got 10,000, so the price is going up.
So are prices really going up again? It is a highly contentious question that most developers today would like to avoid.
房价问题是特别敏感的问题，一说这个问题就吵架。
But on the sidelines of the Boao Forum for Asia, some of the biggest players in real estate gave us their take.
价格的这种上升点、降低点，都不能说明。
A bit of a price movement doesn't mean anything. In one city, if more projects in downtown go on the market, the average price goes up a bit. If more in suburbs go on sale, the price drops a bit. Any price movement within 5% is meaningless.
你要这个正负5%之内，看这个总体的房价的话，是没有太大意义的。
我们认为是涨不了了。
I think it's hard to raise price now. The large amount of inventory is hard to digest in a short time. Prices won't go up at least till the end of the third quarter.
Analysts also say there is still fundamentally a pretty dire picture for developers in many cities. At the end of 2008, inventory levels rose by 47% in Beijing compared to a year before, 57% in Shanghai, and 58% in Shenzhen. Only in Guangzhou, where prices dropped to 40% last year, inventory followed, down 34%. Even with a burst of sales in the first quarter, analysts say it would still take 13 to 25 months to digest the existing inventory in Beijing, about 7 to 9 months in Shenzhen and Guangzhou, with Shanghai faring only slightly better, about 4 to 7 months. But that is not taking into account the new supplies coming down in a pipeline. And developers worry that even the heightened sales level is not here to stay.
Real estate depends on the overall economy. Our entire economy is still battling the financial crisis. A sudden rise in home sales, I think, is hard to maintain.
And unfortunately, government data shows that transaction growth in the first 2 weeks of April has already slowed. Many consumers and even some economists say China's housing debacle in 2008 was of developers' own making. Premier Wen Jiabao also said on several occasions that the housing market clearly has an affordability issue. Consumers are asking why prices could go up 30% a year in good times, but so hard to fall back in bad times. Even when sales were slow, the price drop was much smaller than a rise. Developers say it wasn't that they were reluctant to give up profit, but that the money they paid for land and in taxes leaves them little wiggle room to cut. We spoke to Feng Lun, chairman of the Vanton Group, before a speaking engagement in Shanghai.
Vanke is the largest home developer in China. If you look at its annual report from last year, how much did it pay in taxes? 7 billion. How much did it make for shareholders? 4 billion. Knowing that, do you think developers are the largest beneficiary here?
In 2007, developers spent 3 trillion yuan to buy land. The same year, all developers' sales revenue together is 2.9 trillion. Not enough to pay for the land. It was also a situation that flour is more expensive than bread.
Developers alone can't bring down housing price. If developers don't make money, no one would invest in real estate. Then where do you go buy a home?
But, I asked him, why wasn't overpaying for land a bad business decision on developers' part? And if so, why should consumers shoulder the cost?
Yes, it was a mistake. But so is the financial crisis. But think about why everybody made bad business decisions at the same time. It's because everybody wrongly believed in the government. Everybody was misled by government policies.
Experts say the high price for land was a fact. But what made the situation a lot worse was that developers borrowed too much money to finance their projects.
For developers, if prices go up 5%, their profit might double. But if prices go down 5%, their profit can be cut in half.
One thing clamping down on the market correction might be the sheer importance of the industry, experts say. It contributes 10% of the GDP and involves more than 50 upstream and downstream industries. A massive slowdown of the sector is simply not an option.
If the correction gets too deep, it might push buyers to the sidelines and drag down the overall economy. So bringing down housing price is a tough task.
While it may not have gotten a bailout from the government, that concern did help pump policies into the real estate market to try and support demand. At the turn of the year, down payments were lowered from 30% to 20% for first-time home buyers, and taxes and fees were reduced on second-hand property transactions. But some local government actions were seen as too favorable to developers and stirred an uproar in public. Like in a western city of Chongqing, the local government announced back in January that it would allow first-time home buyers to deduct their entire monthly mortgage payment from up to half of their personal income taxes, a move that some analysts argue was essentially using government tax revenue to subsidize developers' profit.
Local governments don't care if housing prices are high or low, but they need high transaction volumes. If homes sell well, local governments can get a lot of taxes and fees associated with development and sales. Also, when developers sold their projects, they will have to buy new lands, and that's land sales revenue for local governments.
In some second-tier cities, that revenue could equal as much as 50% of their income, directly affecting many city coffers. In Shanghai, revenue from land sales was down 30% in 2008 compared to 2007. In Guangzhou and Chongqing, that drop was higher than 70%.
Under the current fiscal structure, local governments don't have other revenue to replace the money they get from real estate, so they have to stimulate the housing market. Under current structure, it's very unlikely the housing price would come down to a sensible level.
Where the housing market is heading is anybody's guess, but as an important driver to the Chinese economy and a key player in the urbanization process, the sector's health matters beyond the profitability of developers. Reporting for BizTime, I'm Du Wei in Boao, Hainan.